I wanted to announce I've been working closely with Hoodoo to provide a packaged offering for Rising Tide customers that will basically be focused around Hoodoo hosting. Spent a lot of time. I wrote up a community document for MSP Geek about how to do hosting within Kubernetes. And I spent a lot of time figuring out how to make self-hosting easy for the people who are not familiar with or not comfortable using CLI or Docker. Or Docker Compose on how to set up Hoodoo. And in this video, I actually want to demonstrate. I want to demonstrate a easy way to set up Hoodoo self-hosted using a tool called EasyPanel. And basically, you can be up and running within 15 minutes hosting Hoodoo. Very simple, without messing with SSL certificates or anything like that. And I'm going to show you how. There are a couple of prerequisites that you need. You do need a hosting platform in the cloud, either Linode or DigitalOcean or Azure or something like that. You can host it internally as well on your own server. It's just not recommended these days to do that for your documentation platform, something critical like that. But you can self-host it on either your data center or Azure, etc., one of those places. So you do need somewhere to host it. And then also, a lot of this stuff requires Cloudflare. Cloudflare is free if you're not using the zero trust access policies. If you are using the access policies, it is free for the first 50 users that are authenticating. So you just need Cloudflare free. You need to have the domain name that you're going to be using for Hoodoo to be within Cloudflare. But once you have that, if you're basically ready to go. So I'm going to share my screen and let's get going. This is the my portal. We're basically showing you that we're doing Hoodoo hosting now. This is how you can request it. I'm actually going to close this out. We're going to jump to Linode, which is the platform I use for my hosting. And I'm going to take you through creating a brand new Linode. We're going to use the marketplace, and I'm going to search for EasyPanel. And of course, now it takes its time. Let's try that again. Here it is, EasyPanel. I'm going to click EasyPanel, and we're going to choose 2204 LTS, which is a long-term service release. So therefore, it's going to be supported for a while. Choose your preferred data center. I'm going to choose Newark, New Jersey, as I'm in the East Coast. And here you can choose a plan based off of how much you think you need. Generally speaking, I think minimum requirements are 2 cores, 2 gigs of memory, and then 30 gigabytes of space or something like that. I don't recall offhand, but I think that's what it was. I'm going to go with the 2 cores, 4 gigs, 80 gigs of space, because I want at least 2 cores for $24 a month from Linode. And we're going to go ahead and set a label, and we're just going to say RTCG Hoodoo self-host demo. And we're going to create a root password here. I'm using, I'm going to use my built-in password manager to actually create a password. I have a previous demo done before. I'm just going to use that same password in this case because it is a demo password. And then we're going to go ahead and you can choose backups if you want. I'm going to go ahead and create the Linode. So while we're waiting for that to provision, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to, on the hosting page for my portal, there's a link. You want to go to self-hosting.usehoodoo.com, and you want to start populating this out. Okay, so this is the environment generator. It generates the environment variable file that gets placed into Docker. In our case, we're not going to be using Docker directly. We're using it through a management interface called EasyPanel, but we still need that environment variable. So we're going to go ahead and create it. So you can see I filled in my subdomain, my domain I'm going to be using for hosting. I'm going to use local storage in this case, but you can just populate remote storage if you want to use S3 and put that in. So I'm going to use local storage in this case. I'm going to skip SMTP. I don't really need email, but you can populate that as you need to. And then what we have over here is going to be what we copy and paste into EasyPanel itself. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get into it. So we can see now our EasyPanel is up and running. And all we have to do is browse to it. And I think it's port 3000. Assuming it's fully functional. Dun, dun, dun. I wonder if they changed. Nope, it's probably just a matter of being patient. It's not really my strong suit. Let me pause the recording and I will resume it once it's up and running. Okay, so we now have EasyPanel up and running. Like I said, it was just a matter of patience. Sometimes I'm not the most patient person. And we are at the setup EasyPanel section. So this is pretty straightforward. You notice we're not on HTTPS right now. There's no way to get to HTTPS until we get through initial configuration. So you may want to change your password after you do your initial setup. But in this case, I do have a password I've set on the last demo. So I'm just going to use that same password again for the EasyPanel login here. And I already have updates for EasyPanel. I'm going to just click setup, and now I will be signed in to EasyPanel. And this is what it looks like. It's pretty straightforward. So there's a couple things that we want to do here. We want to make sure that we get our SSL set up and running to the management plane. We want to make sure for security purposes, we set the Linode that we just created to not allow any inbound ports. And we want to make sure that we create our Hoodoo project. So if you notice, everything here is broken out of the projects. Then within the projects, you have the templates. And just to give you an idea, first we'll just create the Cloudflare project. It's something that we're going to need. And this is going to be where we host our Cloudflare tunnel. And if you notice here, there's templates. There are so many applications that are built into EasyPanel for you to do one-click deploy that allows you to easily get to any of those applications. We do not have templates for Cloudflare. I say we, it's not my product, EasyPanel.io, but it is a product I use heavily. In any case, there is no template for Cloudflare tunnel already, but Rising Tide Group, this one is me, created a wrapper for the Cloudflare tunnel, and we don't need to set up a domain. So just walk you through what I did because I was talking as I did it. You clicked new service here, and you can see all the various options you have to do different databases that are native, or you can choose a custom app. In this case, I did custom app, and then I specified the name of the app as tunnel. I'm going to go ahead and stop that so that it's not running. There's nothing to actually run right now. And now you can see it's down. It's not using anything. And here's where it's going to grab the source. So in this case, you're going to put in Rising Tide Group as the owner of the repository, and we're just going to specify Cloudflare as the repository itself. The branch is main, and build path is. And if you want to know what this is doing, we can just go to github.com/Rising Tide Group /Cloudflare real quick. And you can see it's literally just a wrapper around the existing Cloudflare tunnel. And here's a Docker file. Very simple. There's nothing else to it. So EasyPanel is going to pull the repo from main. It's going to grab the Docker file, which we specify. When we click save, it'll show up here, Docker file. So it'll grab that Docker file and it's going to build that deployment out. Now, the only thing that we also need to do is if you look here, you notice we need to set the environment variable tunnel-token, tunnel_token. So I'm going to come here and go to environment. I'm going to set that environment variable, and we need to actually create a token. So let's go to cloudflare.com. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And we're going to go to the zero trust. Now, if we go to zero trust, this is where you want to go. If it's the first time logging in, it's going to walk you through the setup where you set. It's going to ask you to set your domain name and other stuff like that. In this case, I already have a bunch of stuff configured. I'm going to go to access and then tunnels, and I have RTG hosted docs tunnel already created. Notice it's down right now because I deleted that environment where I was testing, and I'm recreating it with you now on a demo. This is going to have the install instructions. And if you notice, you click Docker, it's basically just running Docker with that token. The token is going to be the same no matter what installer you're doing. And at some point, if you want to refresh a token, get a new one so somebody else can't hijack your tunnel, you can go ahead and hit that refresh token button. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And all we need to do is throw that. Sorry, can't find the tab, into here. So I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to delete everything here. And then we're just going to go like that. Tunnel token equals, and that's my token. Now you got to click save between every change you make, and notice this message. Make sure to click the deploy button once you're ready to push the changes. So every time you make a change, you got to hit save every button you press, and then you click deploy, and then you'll see here. At some point, it's going to grab that Docker file, and you can see it's actually building out. Here's what it looks like. It's building out the tunnel from the Docker file instructions. And it says done, and it's done here. And now we can go ahead and hit the start button. And notice we are registered, right? So we're registered, we're up and running. Our tunnel is online. And if we go back to our overview, you see that now it's healthy. Let's go back in here. We've got to make some changes to our public host names because our IP address changed since I deleted and recreated this whole environment. So notice these are the public IPs of the Linode itself, and you can actually see it by looking up here at the EasyPanel. And if you keep it like, just keep in mind, remember, I have not SSH'd into the platform at all at this point. I used a template, I waited, I signed in, I registered EasyPanel, and I'm still doing everything from the web. I haven't signed into SSH, I'm not doing any commands. So if you're really wary about doing anything directly from the host, this is an option for you to use. Now, if you notice, EasyPanel is using port 3000 to manage the platform. I'm going to go ahead and change this IP address to equal the IP address of this EasyPanel. And I'm going to continue using the same host name and stuff like that we've already been using. So I'm just updating my demo host names that I've tested in the past. I'm doing it on the video, pointing to the new IP address. So now this host name, hosteddocs.io, interesting, I just randomly got a server auth error. But this host name is going to be what's going to point to this EasyPanel now. And I'm using HTTP and 3000. I'm going to refresh this page because I don't know why. I just want to make sure that it took effect. It doesn't look like it did. Let's grab that and try this one more time. There we go. Successfully saved settings. And now we have the correct IP address. So now if I can't click to open maybe. Here, now I can do it from here. If I click and open this, notice I'm in EasyPanel and it is protected by SSH. At this point, I don't need access to the system anymore on my normal ports, 80, 443, 3000, anything like that. My Cloudflare tunnel is online and running, and I have a route through Cloudflare on how to get to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up a firewall, and I'm going to create a new firewall, block all inbound, and I'm going to choose the Linode we just created, Hudu demo.mendelin. No, RTCG hosted Hudu-demo is the Linode. We're going to create that firewall. Oh, no spaces. Okay, got it. Create firewall. And now we have block all inbound, and we're just going to block. And now so we're going to leave all outbound accepted. So at this point, if I come back here and try to refresh this, what should happen once the firewall goes live is that it should fail to connect. And sure enough, you can see it's loading. It is not connecting. All right, so the firewall is up and running. I can't get to it, but if I'm over here and I refresh, it's still loading just fine. And I can log in with my saved password. Here's my tunnel and the EasyPanel. It's up and running. And here the IP address is no longer connecting. So now what I've done is I've created a Linode VM. You can do that in DigitalOcean. You can do it in Azure, like I said, EasyPanel. There's templates, or you can manually install EasyPanel if you want. And then once you're in EasyPanel, I've brought in Cloudflare tunnel, and I've secured the VM, so there's no inbound traffic at all to the firewall. At this point, everything is going through Cloudflare. So at this point, we were ready to set up Hoodoo, which we're going to come here, and we're going to create a new project. And I'm going to call it Hudu 2, just because that's what they call it in Docker Compose, but you can really call it whatever you want. Now we're going to start creating our services. Now, remember, we have a bunch of pre-built services here. So this one's called Redis. Right, so what I did for these names is I went to the Docker Compose files that Hoodoo has, and I'm recreating each of the applications with the same exact names that they have. Postgres is DB, and you can set the Docker image. I think they're using 13 or 12 right now. I'm just going to leave it the latest version because why not if it works. May want to reach out to Hoodoo support to identify what the latest supported version really is. And now I've got my database and Redis cache created. And the only thing I need to do left is build out the app itself. There are 2 apps that come here. Technically, there's another container. Actually, there's 5 containers. There's the Redis cache, the database for Postgres. There's the worker app that runs all the scheduled tasks. And then there's the application itself that hosts the web interface and the web application. But there's another container on top of all that, which is varies depending on the type of setup you're doing. Some of it is uses like a Let's Encrypt container that's Nginx with a Let's Encrypt wrapper from LCR. And then others are just using Nginx straight up or with a custom certificate or no certificate at all. In this case, because we're using the Cloudflare tunnel, we do not need that last container. So we only need 4 containers. We just need the Redis, the database, the app, and the worker. The worker comes in later at the end. It's not necessary for initial setup. It's only necessary for scheduled actions and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and create that app container. And we know the domain in this case is going to be rtcg.hosteddocs.io. So we're going to go ahead and specify the domain name that you want to use to access Hoodoo at this point. And then we're going to stop that container. And now we got to go deal with our setup. So remember our Hoodoo environment generator? We're going to go ahead and copy everything inside of here. And we're going to go to our project environment variables. There's 2 things. There's the environment for the application itself. And then there's environment variables for the project by clicking up here. And here's the project environment. I'm going to paste everything into here. The reason I'm using this is because we have multiple applications. And each application needs access to the environment. So there's the worker, there's the app. So in order for us to not have to copy it in multiple places individually, we're just going to create it once under the project. I need to grab this internal connection URL. I'm already moving without talking again. Go to your database and grab your internal connection URL, and then go back to your environment. If you scroll down to right here where you have DB host, we need to modify the values here to match what's inside this URL. So the way that works is the URL is postgres://. That's the protocol we're going to be using to connect. We don't need that because we already have the protocol specified manually. We have the username, which is Postgres. We've got the password after the colon, which is right there. And then we've got the @Hudu2_DB. Notice we have the Hudu2 as the project name. _DB is the application name. So we're going to put that in there. 5432 is the port. We don't need that. It's the default port for Postgres. And then we have the database name, which by default is Hoodoo production from Hoodoo. We're going to change it to match the database name that's being set by EasyPanel, which is the name of the project. So we're going to say Hoodoo 2. And then we're going to go ahead and save that. Now we're going to go back to our Redis, and we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to grab the internal connection URL. Oop, that's the wrong button. We're going to copy that. We're going to hit the environment variables again. And in this case, it's actually pretty easy. We're going to grab the Redis URL. We're just going to replace the existing one with a new one. And it's going to include all the information that it needs. Okay. We're using local storage. Yep. So everything should be okay at this point. We're not using S3 at all. We're going to go back to Hoodoo 2. And the only thing we're going to do now is over here, we got to go to Docker image, and we need to specify the name of the Docker image that's going to be used, which is Hoodoo Docker /Hoodoo:/latest, or you can specify a specific version tag if you want. In this case, this is all that's going to be. We're going to hit save. Now, the last things that we need to do is go to the domains, and we have to modify the domains. We need to, our domain is in here. We already added it at the time we created the app. But if we scroll down here, we've got a proxy with Let's Encrypt SSL. So you know, technically speaking, if we didn't use Cloudflare, we still wouldn't need the Let's Encrypt container in front of Hoodoo because this EasyPanel handles it for you. And I'm just going to specify the application port is 3000 actually. Okay. Now our proxy is updated, our app's in place. we have to run the deployment. Anytime we make a change to the environment variables or any of those changes right there, we need to specify to run the deployment. So you can see it pull the image Hudu Docker Hudu latest, and we're going to go ahead and start that image. You do have the ability of watching the logs real time, so this actually also makes it easier to support Hoodoo because you don't have to, like navigate through the host of the Docker container. EasyPanel gives you easy access to all the containers that are running for real-time diagnostics. And assuming I didn't do anything wrong, it should have, oh, there it goes. Took a little bit longer to pull and build, but we are running on a fairly low powered system. You can see it's grabbing all the information, all the dependencies. It's going through its build process for its first time run. And while we're doing that, we already know that we're going to need to update our host name. So I'm going to minimize that, grab our IP address again, go back to Cloudflare and update this route to specify using the new IP address. Now, in this case, because EasyPanel is proxying, notice it's listing on 3000, so we're good there. Because EasyPanel is proxying 3000 to port 80 and then also port 443, we do not have to specify colon 3000 here, right? We're just doing 80 in this case, or we can do HTTPS, and then we can say, don't verify TLS in this case, so that it doesn't get tripped up on a certificate mismatch. So we're going to do HTTP for simplicity right now. You can play with it. Your mileage may vary depending on where in the setup process it got. It looks like it may get stuck trying to save it again. Oh, never mind, it's saved. And there we go. So we're going to grab this host name and we're going to open it in a new tab. And look at that. We have our Hoodoo set up. At this point, we're just going to go through and we want to make sure Hoodoo is working correctly. So we're going to go ahead and create the account. I'll do Rising Tide Consulting Group. This is going to be a demo. I have a demo license key here. Good for one user trial. And we'll specify my email. And we actually already have a password here from, again, we did this before initially. So you have that password. And here we are inside of Hoodoo. All right, so notice over here, we've got the logs that are happening, right? No real errors. Everything looks blue, white, or green. No reds. So it seems to be working without any problems. And we're going to go through and actually try to make some changes here that may or may not work. We're going to find out. So we're going to grab an avatar and set my profile picture because we want to make sure that Hoodoo can set the profile picture without an error. And sure enough, it did that. And if you can return, you can see my avatar is now set. If you go to global KB, we're going to go ahead and create a new document. And we are going to do a couple things. We're going to upload a picture here to make sure that it gets saved correctly. And we're going to publish that. And now we're going to drag a file and attach it separately. So these are the various ways that you can upload images and pictures. And notice it's all working properly. We're going to create a public share here and copy that URL. Notice it grabbed HTTPS with the correct host name. Okay. And we're just going to go ahead and throw this in here. And we have the image. And now the last test is I'm going to go view page source. And I want to make sure that the image is not base64. So if we look to the body, we've got source public photo 1. It is not a base64 image. It's being properly saved to the data, to the volume. Okay, so I got really excited that the demo went so well, and I completely forgot about the last piece of Hoodoo. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and we're going to finish configuring the last application within the EasyPanel that I completely forgot about, and that is the worker app. So in this case, we're going to go back to EasyPanel and we're going to create a new application here, and we're going to call it worker, which is what Hoodoo calls it. We're not going to specify a domain in this case. It's not going to have access or public access or anything like that. We're going to go ahead and create, and we're going to stop that. Now, most of the stuff is already here. Yeah, there's a lot that I forgot because we forgot about persistent storage. So let's just backtrack for a moment. I'm going to stop the application. I'm going to stop the worker, and we're going to fix the last piece that we're missing. So we need to create our volume mounts. So to do that, we want to create the volume mount here. here's 3 volume mounts we're going to create. One of them is going to be called public uploads. And the mount path you want to use is /var www.hudu2 public uploads. This is where those images and attachments will go for the ones accessible by the public. And here we're going to have just regular uploads. So these are just standard attachments. And then we're going to have the app data itself, which is var-lib app data. So we're going to put all of the paths here inside the comments of the video, the description. So don't worry about having to grab them off the video. They will all be placed inside the description. I'm just going to grab that. Okay. And now now we have to click save. Remember, everything we do requires a save. And then we're going to redeploy the app. All right, so the app is deployed. We're going to go ahead and hit start. So now that app can start. Now I'm actually curious to see what happened. There is no persistent storage in Docker. You need to have a volume mounted within Docker in order to have that persistent storage. And we did upload some attachments. So I'm wondering how that's going to look. We can go take a look at that once that's complete. Now, the last piece that we want to do is we have to map. Remember, Worker is the same exact application as the app itself. It's just doing different things. So we're going to grab the app Hudu Docker /Hudu:/latest, and we're going to save that. We're going to make sure there's no domain. We're not proxying anything. We're just going to set this to 0 at this point. And our environment's already pulling from the main thing. We do have to set up the same volumes that exist. So that's going to be, we're going to use bind mounts instead of volume mounts. Okay, we want to make sure that it goes to the same place. We're not using 2 different sets. So we want to mount these volumes that we created here into this thing. So we're doing bind mounts where we map a host path to a mount path. Okay. In this case, we're going to grab the host path based off of what we know from EasyPanel. So EasyPanel goes into root etc EasyPanel, and then each project is given a name under the projects folder. So we're going to go to projects, Hudu2. Now each application has its own name as well, has its own folder. We're going to go to app, and then the volumes are stored under volumes. And from there, it's just a matter of grabbing the name of the volume that we created under each app. And then the mount path is going to be the same mount path we specified. Okay. And then host path is, we're going to grab the same information here. Instead of uploads, it's going to be public uploads. Right. And then we're going to grab the public uploads path that we put in there, paste it here. And then finally, it looks like there's a separate volume. We're going to remove this actually. It looks like based off the Docker compose file, it looks like there is a volume that's dedicated just to the worker. So we're going to call it the app path, and we're just going to specify that its mount path should be /app according to the Docker compose file. Now we're going to save that. And then under advanced, we do have a command that needs to run. So the Docker compose file has the command that starts called bundle exec sidekick -c config /sidekick.yaml. And we're going to save that. Okay. So again, we're going to put all of these commands inside of the YouTube description. So if you just expand the description, you'll have all the commands needed in order to do this yourself. And at this point, we're ready to go ahead and deploy this, which should kick off a deployment. And then we can, well, before we start it, let's go check out whether or not this still runs. Nope, you can notice the image is missing. So it definitely did not maintain the storage because I didn't have the storage set to be persistent. But if we come here, we see, sorry, something's wrong. So let's go through, let's clean this up. And let's delete this. And let's come back here and let's reset our profile picture as well, just in case. I don't know if that's cached or actually working or not. So let's do this. And update profile. Okay, so we've got our profile picture here. We've got our new file we're going to upload again. Fancy profile JPEG. That's embarrassing how I just missed like 50% of the deployment setup. And we're going to re-add this image in here and we're going to publish that. Okay, so we've got that all working again. If I come back to this URL and refresh it, the image should be back. Yep. And we're going to test to make sure all this stuff works by the time we're done. All right, so this is ready to go. We're going to hit start on the worker and let's watch to see what happens here. Looks like it's booting Sidekick. I don't know if we have any errors or not. Let's expand the lines we're viewing to like 500 or so. And see, it looks like we're booting Sidekick. That was the beginning. It's connecting to Redis. Redacted password. Nice. I don't see any errors in the log. So this is what runs like your integrations and your various other kinds of things that run on a schedule, such as your leadership, your leaderboard under admin, and other things like that. So that's what the worker is for, and we have the volumes mounted. Each of these point to the volumes that are mounted under the app over here. So now that we basically have that up and running again, let's test to make sure persistent storage is actually working. I'm going to go ahead and stop the application, and we should be able to see that Hoodoo basically crashes at this point. At some point, it should stop working. Looks like it's still up. There it goes. Now it's down. And we should get a bad gateway from Cloudflare, right? So now we're going to go ahead and start it back up again. Running database migrations. And 3000, there we go. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And now we're back at our leaderboards. Let's go ahead and refresh our test document. And sure enough, our image is there this time. So we have not lost our storage. Okay, guys, very important. Do not forget what I forgot. Make sure you add your storage in there. Otherwise, your attachments and uploads will get lost. And I don't want you blaming me for that. Here's our image. You can see it's downloading just fine. And our image is over here. So that's it. We're good to go. So that's it. We now have Hoodoo up and running. Like I said, less than 15 minutes, easy deployment of EasyPanel. We have all ports blocked. There's no inbound port forwarding at all whatsoever. We are controlling access through Cloudflare Tunnel, which is completely free at this point. If you wanted to add in access, then you can go ahead at applications and create your access policies, which then starts triggering a count to see how many users you're using with access applications to identify whether or not you have to pay anything. The first 50 users on Cloudflare are free, and that's basically how to do it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Please like and subscribe, and let me know your comments below. Thanks for watching.